Good evening. Call this meeting of the Johnson City Board of Commissioners for Wednesday, August 8th to order. Tonight we have the invocation by Deb Mulliken from the Johnson City Police Department. If you'll rise for that and stay standing for Pledge of Allegiance.
Please pray with me and say your own prayers if you wish as I pray. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to meet in this room to make decisions, and I ask that you would bless people that make those decisions, that you'd give them wisdom. I ask you, Lord, to bless the people that come to ask for help and that they would be heard, and that you would bless the people who come to offer help, that they would be able to do that. I ask you, Lord, for your blessing on every yea and on every nay, that these people have come, these commissioners have come to take the time to sort out the details and decide what is best for the community and for our families. We thank you for the freedom to come here and have our voices heard and to offer our help and offer our information. I pray that you would give supernatural wisdom to these men and women as they discuss and cooperate and care about this community and the people that live here. I ask you to protect those who protect us. Help us never to take them for granted, but to offer our prayers for their protection every day. Thank you for giving us the power to do these things with your guidance. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shift the timing there midway through.
Mr. Peterson, before we start tonight, I want to do a little public service announcement. If you are a Verizon customer, you don't need to call customer technical assistance. They're down. The system is down, yes. So I spent most of the day on it. It was about 4 o'clock when they finally said, oh, our system's down. It's like, well, that's good. So there's a reason. Save you a little time. Mr. Peterson?
First order of business is consideration of the minutes from your meeting held on Thursday, July the 19th.
Have any comments, corrections, edits, or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Broccoli? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
Next order of business is consideration of the minutes of your special called meeting held on Monday, July the 30th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Broccoli?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Pass.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Was that pass or abstain?
He was.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Thank you. Very good.
At this time, we would like to present proclamations. The first being a proclamation recognizing Science Hill High School for being awarded a silver medal designation. If we could ask Misters Barnett, and Kinnick to come forward, please. Come on, John, you're on school.
His t-shirt shorts.
He was at a mountain bike event right before this.
Nice of you to dress up for the.
Yeah, Mr. Kinnick, appreciate you putting the extra effort in on the. Yeah, and as I was at the same event you were, and my feet are still drying out, so you were the smart one there. But, well, as a alum of Science Hill and the father of 3 Science Hill alums, it's with great pleasure that I present you with this. Whereas the U.S. News and World Report in an American media company that publishes news, opinion, consumer advice, rankings, and analysis in education, health, money, careers, travel, and cars since 1933. And whereas the U.S. News and World Report named Science Hill High School as one of the top high schools in the nation, earning a silver medal designation in May 2018. And whereas Science Hill High School is ranked 24th within Tennessee based on a 25% participation rate in advanced placement coursework and exams, which I did not participate in when I was a student there. I was one of the 75. Whereas, based on their performance on state-required tests and how well they prepare students for college, Science Hill High School is nationally ranked 2,698th best high schools, over 20,500 public schools, becoming one of 19 schools in the state to earn the silver medal distinction. Now, therefore, I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, do hereby congratulate Science Hill High School on receiving this distinguished award, which they successfully and admirably represented our area on the state and national stage. And there, congratulations. And just a little personal note, I'll brag for a minute since we got a second. My oldest daughter, was her first day teaching at Gibbs Middle School in Knoxville. So yes, you do prepare them very well. Thank you.
We're proud of our kids. We appreciate everything you and the commissioners and the city does for us.
Thank you. You want to sing the Science Hill song?
I'm good right now. You don't want me to sing.
Just tell everybody, just pass it down, tell everybody who you are.
This is Mr. George Leo. He's assistant principal.
Do you know the song?
I do not know the song. Steve Barnett, Superintendent of Schools.
Jonathan Koenig, Vice Chairman, School Board. And we do appreciate the City Commission support. We really do.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations.
And at this time, if we could ask Chief Turner to come up. You were hiding out there, weren't you? Protecting the front entrance. Chief Turner is going to give us an update on some activities and additional enforcement issues that we have implemented in the downtown area. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to the commission about downtown and what we're doing in the downtown. Also want to thank Mr. Peterson for the funds that we've been able to take out of our budget to pay the officers to work down there in these extra details. One thing that we don't have as far as statistics is the face-to-face contacts we've had with some of the business owners and the patrons in downtown, and we've had a lot of positive comments. I have received some emails from the business owners as well about the condition of downtown, how it's improved, the reduction in panhandling and some of the other crimes that have taken place in downtown. So we're very happy to receive those comments, and just want to talk to you about some of the arrests. The camping ordinance, of course, that the commission passed. We've issued 10 camping ordinance violations to date that'll be heard in city court, and also 31 open container violations in June and July in the downtown area that are set to be heard in city court as well. Just a couple other quick facts. 48 public intoxication arrests in June and July, and 11 drug arrests in June and July, and that's all in the downtown area as well. Not all the numbers have increased, and we're glad to see some reduction in arrests that we've had for some thefts, simple assaults, and vandalisms in the downtown, and there's been some slight decreases in those crimes and arrests that we've had in downtown. The officers have taken out some inmates from the jail on work details in the downtown to help clean up, and a lot of that has been along the curbs where the street sweeper can't get to. A lot of times there's cars parked in the downtown, they're not able to do that, so we've been able to take out some crews from that, in the jail to help with the cleaning down there as well. Parking citations, they have increased as well. In June and July, we wrote 177 parking citations, which includes the 2-hour parking in downtown. And that's over half of what we've written for the year. So just those officers' presence down there, they've been able to help with the parking as well. A couple of other quick things. Of course, our Community Crime Prevention Coordinator, Becky Hoss, she continues to work with the Homeless Advisory Committee and also the Homeless Task Force to look for ways to provide more spaces for people who are truly homeless and looking for those shelter and other services that they provide downtown, such as job training. So she's continuing to work on those as well. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Penzola and Public Works. They've helped us with some of the cleanup in downtown, some of the homeless camps that we've been able to identify on private property, and those owners have asked for some help, and some of it on public property that we've been able to clean up as well. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Chief, what impact is our homeless ordinance having at this point? Can you give us a little update on that?
Are you talking about the camping ordinance?
Yeah, the camping ordinance.
Yes, sir. Like I said, we've issued 10 citations for violation of that ordinance. Most of those will be heard, or a lot of those will be heard this month, so they've not been adjudicated in city court yet, so they're pending right now, the majority of those. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
From what we know from talking to the officers, and a lot of people have voluntarily complied with the ordinance, so just a warning has been beneficial for most people down there.
Of the citations you've issued, how many actual encounters have there been? Do you have a way of?
I don't know. We don't track some of the, where we give a warning and they voluntarily comply. We don't really track those, so I don't know that number, Commissioner Wise.
Are the officers, when they may have this encounter, trying to refer them on to, if they'll say you can't camp here, but you can go up to the Salvation Army or Haven of Mercy and try to get them to other places where we know we have shelter space?
We're trying to direct them to the shelters, Vice Mayor Brock, yes, ma'am. And I know that the commission is working with the Salvation Army as well to try to increase those number of beds. And so we feel like that there'll be ample place to stay, and we want to, as the weather cools down and we get closer to winter, I'm sure that those facilities will be used more.
Thank y'all for what you're doing. We hear as well that the downtown businesses and people who are just visiting downtown feel better, feel safer.
Well, thank you. And the credit goes to the women and men who are out there, the officers that are working, because they put in a lot of time and they've really taken ownership in the downtown to help improve the conditions down there. So,
Thank you, Chief.
Very good. Your next order of business is consideration of a temporary occasion license for Downtown Johnson City Foundation to sell beer at the Meet the Mountain Festival to be held on Friday, August the 24th and Saturday, August the 25th. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors. The recommendation is for approval.
Is the applicant here? You'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Reagan Streetman, 300 East Main Street, Suite 406, downtown Johnson City.
Have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Yes, sir.
How many times? No.
A lot.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, sir.
Do I have
Move
any
approval.
questions for, okay, never mind.
I mean, we could ask questions, but that's not what you're here for. You're here for the
No,
permit.
I'm here to sell the event,
Very
right?
All right, well, we better not try to have any discussion, so Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Now, if you'd like to tell us.
So this is a project that's been near and dear to our heart. We have several high-level sponsors, industry partners. We believe as the NetRep organization that this is going to have this festival called Meet the Mountains Festival, August 24th and 25th. It's going to have a huge economic impact, not only for the region as a whole, but especially our downtown community. And we are looking at outdoor recreation being one of the key tools that really grows this region and this area, not only to attract new talent, but also to keep our community healthy, also to attract our industry partners who are looking not only to build new businesses here, but they're looking for healthy communities in which to do that. So we have all these great assets, and we decided to host a festival in which people could try outdoor activities such as fly fishing. So there'll be casting demo pools. You'll be able to try kayaking for the first time, learn about mountain biking. We'll have classes. And beer will be a part of it, but it will be mainly hands-on activities, and it's all free. So we'll have music in Founders Park serving as headquarters, and we'll also have some evening movies for families. So it is a family-friendly activity. We expect 5,000 to 8,000 people. So, and we'll be hosting ancillary activities in Kingsport, Bristol, Irwin, Jonesboro, Elizabethton. So this really is a regional, the first of its kind, a regional event. Any questions?
But you've called Founder's Park as base camp, right?
Base camp is what we call Founders Park. And we're hoping a lot of heads on beds for this event as well, which translates into economic revenue generated.
Well, this is a good time for us to
exciting.
shine as people come in from out of town and,
It really is.
try out our area, so.
So Roanoke's done this, a few other larger cities, so this is big for us to do. And we love that you guys support us, and you've been nothing but cheerleaders for this endeavor, so thank you. I really appreciate
Do
it.
y'all inform the restaurants and that
Yes.
we're going to have a lot of people in town who are kind of outdoors?
So that's my job,
folks?
yeah, as
Okay.
communication liaison to make sure everybody's on board and it doesn't disrupt Norba businesses within the downtown footprint.
Sure they have plenty of extra food, then, so.
I hope so, yeah. Hungry, active people, that's a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. Appreciate
you.
it.
Yes.
Next item is consideration of a temporary occasion license for Tri-Pride TN to sell beer at the Tri-Pride Festival on Saturday, September 15th. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors. The recommendation is for approval.
Very good. Are the applicants here, or the applicant? We are. Come on up. Hi. And if you'd just state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Ken Lyon, I'm the president.
My name is George Shimon. I'm the vice president and the founder.
Have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Yes.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so.
All right. Any questions? I'm afraid to ask. I'm cut it off.
I just thought that's what you were looking for. You
Would you-
I'll
We have a
move for
motion.
approval
There
of
you
this
go.
motion.
Motion, do you have a second?
okay if I second? I'll second it.
The motion is second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Now, if you'd like to tell us about your event?
We're doing the first ever LGBT Pride Parade and Festival in the region, downtown Johnson City. We're really appreciative of your support, by the way, on this. Down Commerce Street, and then also in the Founders Park will be where we're going to actually do the festival itself. So think like a mini Blue Plum, but LGBT themed, basically. We have a live performance, music, stage, the food trucks for vendors, different arts and craft people, a kids area. It'll be family friendly.
We have really been, so we believe that inclusion is a two-way street. We would like to see the Tri-Cities become even more inclusive than it is in terms of being a welcoming place to live. And just by leading by example, we're trying to make our event as inclusive as possible. We're being very accommodating. For instance, accessibility, all our bathrooms are going to be handicap accessible. We just want to have an event where everyone feels like they can come and feel welcome to enjoy it. And every major employer in the Tri-Cities has gotten behind this event, which we are so thankful for, from Eastman to City, Fidelity, Walmart. It's like dozens of sponsors, small and big. So we're really hoping that we can make this become a city where people want to stay and live and build a life rather than move to another city that's perceived as more welcoming. So there is a business reason why we're doing this, and I think that the bigger employers in town who are struggling a little bit with recruiting and retaining employees from outside the Tri-Cities really like this idea. So we're trying to do our part, and we're trying to do it responsibly and in a way that we can make everyone proud and happy. So thanks for listening to us and giving us a chance.
We also, I don't know, we have a alternate Plan B after the Blue Plum issue that we're supposed to be approved by you guys as well. Is that part of this now, or is that a
Well, I was
separate
going to say,
thing?
we've got if you just want to stand up there.
Sure.
We've got
Go
a
for
street
our next
closure
section.
request for you. We can
That's, yeah.
knock that out.
You already approved our prime one, but this is Plan B in case it rains.
And given the weather we've had this summer,
Yeah, we thought that too.
pretty
It's
good
like
chance, yeah.
Founders Park is like a bog right now, so.
Your next order of business is consider a street closure request from Tri-Pride TN for the festival on Saturday, September the 15th. This is a request to close a portion of Commerce between Main and Market, closing at 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And as shown on Site Plan B, which is also included in the packet, so you are actually approving both site plans, and with the understanding that in the event of inclement weather, we will shift into Plan B. We would recommend your approval.
Very good.
Move approval. Is that okay? Okay.
Second.
And second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Good luck.
Thank you. We hope we don't have to use it, but we're prepared if we do.
Yep.
Any
Well,
other questions?
Y'all got some great coverage in the press over the weekend?
We did,
Yeah.
yeah. Eastman announced their official.
Terrific statements from Eastman, yeah.
Yeah, and then Citigroup gave a big presentation to us last month at their Gray site and officially launched as our parade festival, a parade sponsor as well. So they're going to be the first float in the parade going down Commerce Street. So we're really excited. There's a lot of wonderful support from the community, both businesses and institutions and individuals.
And we have a planning committee of about 30 people. We have been working tirelessly to make sure this is organized.
Run smoothly.
Yeah, it's for the last 10 months, 30 people have just been doing research, and so hopefully this can be an event that will do the city good.
Very good.
Thank you all for your
Thank
support.
you. Good luck.
Next order of business is consider a street closure request from Science Hill to accommodate the homecoming parade. This affects portions of Liberty Bell Boulevard between the hours of 5 and 7 p.m. On September the 28th. So this is the same route has been used for the last several years. We would recommend your approval.
Any questions?
Move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
We have one. If you'd like to,
Tell us about it.
well, come on up and,
I'll be brief.
sure. Well, let's vote on it. We gotta,
You want to vote first, and then we'll let
We'll vote and then let you speak. yeah.
yep. All right.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
It's chaos
Commissioner
tonight.
Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Very good. Tell us about,
Homecoming parade.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you for letting me speak on behalf of Science Hill and talk about one of our Topper Life events. I know we have a few alumni here. I'm not sure who else is a graduate of Science Hill. Awesome. Great. Well, Topper Life for us, we sat down, and it's really a phrase we're emphasizing this year, and we sat down and came up with some acronyms for Topper, and it stands for tradition, opportunity, pride, purpose, excellent, and responsibility. And our homecoming is a part of that. It's something that we remember as high school graduates, and so I'm very proud to be up here and talking about that. So when we think of Topper Life, we think about our own high school if we're not a topper. But I can say after 2 years, I go home in Bristol where I live, and they all ask me, how's Science Hill, how's it treating them? And I tell them it's awesome. It's a great place to be. I'm very fortunate. And within that year, I've become a topper myself. So I believe in the Topper Life motto we have going on as well. And so part of that is going to be our homecoming events. And I've never seen homecoming done like Toppers can do homecoming. So it's a great event. Our kids are excited about it. And so this road closure is going to allow us to highlight some of our things that we have to offer at Science Hill. So certainly appreciate the opportunity on behalf of Science Hill.
thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Go Toppers.
Next is a street closure request from the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorder Association for the Walk to End Alzheimer's event to be held on Saturday, September the 29th. This is a request to close portions of various streets from 5 a.m. until 1 p.m. There is a map in your packet which outlines the streets to be closed. We've reviewed it and would recommend the approval of the request.
We have a motion? So moved. Second. We have a second? Motion and a second? Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. If you guys would like to come up and tell us all about it.
Thank you guys so much for allowing us to come here tonight and approving this street closure. The Walk to End Alzheimer's is the world's largest event in support of Alzheimer's care support and research. The Alzheimer's Association, we cover 21 counties within Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. So there are quite a number of people who are affected by Alzheimer's disease right here in Johnson City, but we bring in people from Elizabethton, Jonesboro, Irwin, and Unicoi to this walk here in Johnson City, and it's a great opportunity to raise funds that help support our programs and services in the office, as well as to fund research in order to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. There is currently no cure for Alzheimer's disease. There's no way to slow it down even. And so this event is a way for people to come together, feel that they're not alone in this disease, and get the help and the resources that we need, because we'll have vendors there who are assisted livings and home health companies out in the community, and they can, help provide them the resources that they need. And we have fun family games and events and music, and we have a special promise garden ceremony where you actually get a flower that you could put into the ground that's based on your connection to Alzheimer's disease. And so it's extremely powerful and poignant, and we appreciate you guys. We actually had this walk in Willow Springs last couple years, but we've taken that park and we've expanded too much out of it. We can't park there anymore. There's too many people, so we needed to expand it. And so we instantly thought, let's move it to downtown Johnson City. So we're really excited about that this year. Blair, do you want to say anything?
No, we're just looking forward to the event on the 29th, yeah.
Is there a plan B on this one as well, in case it rains?
The plan B will be.
Raincoat or not raincoat? Right?
Yeah, raincoat or not raincoat. And if it's, obviously torrential rains and winds, we'll cancel the event and we'll reschedule it.
Very good. We'll hope for good weather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next order is to consider a street closure request from Blue Plum for the Christmas parade to be held on Saturday, December the 1st. The appropriate reviews have been made, and the recommendation is for approval, and I think this follows the same route that was utilized last year.
And sadly, I don't think anybody's here because I was going to make a mayoral proclamation to the organization that actually turned something in 4 months before the day, not 4 days like we get so often, 4 months.
Well, for the record, Christmas never comes as a surprise. It's the same time every year.
No, don't minimize it.
Raise the cabinet at a different time, like a little
Correct.
closer to Christmas Day.
Move approval.
Got a motion? How about a second? Second. Any further commentary or discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Each year I make the point that it should be closer to Christmas Day.
Ah, humbug.
No, it's not a bah humbug. It takes a lot of the enjoyment for me of a parade that isn't in close association to the holiday. I will vote yes, but I sure wish somebody would look at that and put it a little bit closer.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
All right, your next order of business is consideration of the consent agenda.
Okay, to my right to left, Commissioner Wise, anything you'd like to pull?
Nothing to pull.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
No, but thank you.
Vice Mayor Brock?
No?
Commissioner Fowler? You? Very good. Nothing for me, although I feel like we should, but I won't. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
Your next order of business is ordinances on third reading. The ordinance is ordinance number 4665-18, which is your supplemental budget ordinance for FY18. Ordinance 4665-18, an ordinance appropriating additional funds to the various departments and divisions of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, with the additional revenue from local, state, and federal sources, is ready for your consideration on third and final reading.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
Next order of business is to consider a request proposal from the Johnson City Development Authority to upgrade Cherry Street. Mr. Penzola, if you would explain the matter, please, sir.
The JCDA was requested by the adjoining property owners along Cherry Street between Roan and Spring Street to upgrade that street from its current asphalt to brick pavers. Included in the project would be a delineation of a trail so that we can try to connect the trails from one side of downtown to the other. The proposal calls for JCDA to contribute $50,000, the city to contribute $40,000, which we have budgeted, the city to remove the asphalt in that stretch, and then the adjoining property owners would install the pavers. Recommend your approval.
Now, is part of that 40 in kind, or is that a hard 40 for? Okay.
So we would write a check to the JCDA for 40, and then the asphalt, taking up the asphalt's in addition to that. Take us about 2 days.
So, Phil, I'm up in that area a lot because my grandchildren go to Olson's. And when it rains, some of those buildings really have some bad drainage that fills that street. Will that be addressed when you're working up in there?
I wasn't aware of it, but
Well,
I'll take a look
okay, the
at
building
it.
between Southern Craft and where
Where the
Johnson
Cox,
Planet.
yeah. I mean, it's a mess in there, so you have to kind of walk around if you're on that part of the road.
Obviously, when they're putting the pavers in, we'll change the slopes slightly, and we'll ensure that that occurs so it slopes out to the street.
Some of it's just open guttering, maybe.
Very good. Any other questions? Do I have a motion? Do we need a? do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the proposal, the allocation of $40,000 to JSDA for the project and removal of asphalt by city crews when this project is approved by the commission.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Thanks.
The next order of business is consideration of approval of a city property listing agreement with Mitch Cox Realtor. This is for a listing of the properties that we own, the Penny's Building, the Woolworths Building, the Sears Building, and what is the former Blaine Cutchall property, which is the 3 small shops between the credit union and the Sears Building, and the gravel lot behind those properties. The listing agreements have been reviewed and are recommended for consideration. The Realtors Commission is 6% of the sales price. These agreements have a term of 1 year, and in these agreements is a clause that gives consideration to should there be an opportunity come forward that would justify the transfer of the property for an amount less than the established sales price, that the realtor would still be given consideration, even though the property is being sold or perhaps even given away in exchange for a certain type of development or job creation in that area. I feel like it's a very fair proposal. from Ms. Castillo and would recommend your approval.
Any questions?
Is there a minimum amount in that? I didn't see that on here, on what we would agree to pay if we decide
I
to.
think it was 75%, was it not?
75%, that's what I was just looking for. I believe it's 75% of the agreed, yes, the,
It's not a dollar amount, just a percentage.
yes. In the event seller should determine it to be in the best interest of the city to reduce the sales price below the listing price more than 25% to incentivize a purchaser to buy the building based upon the economic impact the purchaser may have in staking a presence downtown, either by recognizing jobs to be created or the occupant to be a business that would create demand for other businesses. The commission to be paid shall be stated commission rate in this agreement applied to 75% of the listing price. Yes,
6% of 75% is what it would be.
yes, sir.
Okay.
I had a couple of questions. We saw the template that was used to try to establish what fair market value was earlier. Is staff pretty comfortable that that's realistic?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Not too high, not too low.
I think that is a very realistic price that's been established, and I have no reservations about them being too low.
The other question I had has to do with the fact that we've talked as a commission about there are uses for these buildings that bring value to the downtown. There are uses that probably bring less value to the downtown. I assume that under number 7, the agency relationship, that allows us to not accept a sales recommendation that might come from the broker if we feel that that's not the best use for those properties. Am I reading that properly? Is that what protects us and allows us to have that opportunity?
The owner may reject any and all offers, yes, sir.
Just want to make sure that that's clear. I think the broker who's being recommended understands that, and with her past involvement with the JCDA in a position that was directly geared towards downtown development, I think she understands that there are some uses that are certainly preferable than others. Just want to make sure that we're protected along those lines, and that's the way I read it, but I wasn't 100% sure whether or not, in fact, that does protect it.
And just again, not to bore you with reading to you, but the broker is not authorized to bind the seller to any contract whatsoever, it being the intention of the parties that the broker is authorized only to solicit offers for the property. Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very good. I think it's fair, and again, not knowing what's in front of us, I think it protects they're going to be working for us, so they deserve to be paid, and hopefully working very hard. So, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I would move approval.
About a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
Next order of business is consideration of approval of an agreement of sale for the purchase of property from Joe Wilson and Partners on the Bristol Highway. And as a part of this, there is a second agreement that needs to be approved, which involves the acquisition of an adjoining piece of property. And I'm going to step down here and pull up a visual so to explain.
Just point of order, do we need a separate item? Do we need to vote on that separately, or is that going to be
It will
included?
probably be cleanest for the record to vote on those two items.
Separately, okay, so we'll need to add that to the agenda.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay. Just to get everybody acclimated to where we are, This is the four-field diamond at Winged Deer. Bristol Highway is shown here. Mountain View Church is this property right here. This is the 3 soccer fields at Winged Deer. This parcel right here contains the parsonage for the church. This property, as well as this little leg right down through here, is the property of Hayward Sale. And these 2 large lots right here belong to Joe Wilson and Partners. As you are aware, we have been in discussions for some time now about the acquisition of what I'm going to refer to as the Wilson property. This is 36 acres, a total of 36 acres between the 2 parcels. They're actually, as they exist today, 2 separate parcels. At one of our earlier meetings, we had discussions about the need for a continuous access from Winged Deer Park to this property to allow us to go back and forth with patrons as well as maintenance vehicles, those types of things, which necessitated this little strip right here. I'm gonna take this to a different scale so you can see it a little better. As I pointed out, this right here is what grants access to the balance of the sale property. In order to have a legal lot of record, every parcel must have 50 feet of road frontage along a public street in order to make it a legal lot. This is what in planning vernacular we refer to as a flag lot. So what also exists for Mr. Sell at this time, to this side of his access point is the driveway into the church. I think the way that works now, that Mr. Sell has an easement across there to access his property. This is an unimproved area of his property at this present time. What Mr. Sell has agreed to, and is one of those agreements in your packet, he is willing to donate or exchange to us everything in blue right here in exchange for us moving his water meter from down here at the Bristol Highway to this point up here on his property, and for this being developed as a public street, which would give him his required 50 feet of legal frontage along a public street. If the acquisition of the Wilson property is approved, and if and when this is developed into a recreation facility or a school site or whatever we do with it, we're going to need an access into this property. As you can see, there is access over here on Onion Lane, but there is no access over here onto the Bristol Highway. So this is a legal lot of record, but there isn't a good access onto the Bristol Highway, which is going to necessitate an access point into what I'm going to refer to as the park for ease of conversation. This will, whether it's a driveway or whatever we build, it's going to have curb and gutter and storm drainage. It's going to be built to public street standards. It'll have a sidewalk to it leading down to the Bristol Highway. So whatever we do up here, we're going to build something equivalent to a public street one way or the other. So I don't feel like we will incur any additional expense by declaring this a public street up here, as Mr. Sell has requested, because we're going to have to build something anyway if we buy the Wilson property. As far as moving the water meter, he has a meter here in his water line up to his home, which is, well, here's his barn, and his property goes on up to here. All of that's a private water line at this point. If we develop this into a park site, we're going to have an 8 or a 10-inch water line up through there in order to serve toilets, water fountains, irrigation, all the things you're going to have in a park site. So after consulting with Mr. Witherspoon, moving his water meter from this point to this point really has no cost to us. We're going to put the water line in anyway. So I would view this pretty much from the standpoint of Mr. Sell is going to donate this to us in exchange for the right to use a public right-of-way and move his water meter from down at the Bristol Highway to the point that it is up here on his property. We're not going to incur any additional cost whatsoever for the acquisition of this piece of property. One other thing I would point out to you, the width from this point to this point is about 70 feet. It's between 70 and 71 feet. The same holds true down here on this end. So we have a nice wide piece of property there to develop into and access back and forth. The distance from this point over to the corner of the Wilson property is 50 feet. So we've got plenty of room there to put in a street, to put in street and utilities, to put in a lot of different things. This is more than ample amount of room to make a good cross connection from Wing Deer over to the Wilson property. Our recommendation would be for the commission to approve the agreement with Hayward and Cherry Sale for the acquisition of the property I have just outlined to you in blue. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have about that.
Does the cell transfer obligate us to create that right-of-way sooner than we might otherwise? So he forfeits his claim or gives whatever the word you want to use, this blue area, he no longer has access to a public street.
That is correct.
So how quickly do we have to get him a public street?
Well, the agreement at this point would be that we will make that a public street at the point in time that further development occurs over here.
So let's imagine, like, and again, we've had a lot of numbers thrown at us on these variations, but my recollection is Los and Associates was talking about $12 or $13 million to do something with the parcels that we call the Wilson property. That might be sometime in the future. What happens to the cells? They deed that property, now they no longer have that access, and they've got a non-conforming lot.
They do. We could go ahead and make the property exchange now, or to avoid what you just described, you could approve this now and get it in place, and the agreement's in place that the transfer will take place when the public street's open. And Mr. Sell's lot would remain a legal lot until that point in time.
Is that the way the agreement reads right now, though, or is that going to have to be modified?
I need to reread to make sure before I answer your question. That was a great catch.
Let me ask.
It's my little gift. You're welcome, everyone.
Let me ask one more question. As I recall, the schemes that were drawn up by Lowe's and Associates, the road was in this position, was it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it's not too grade for a road, but that's the entrance way that that the contractor used to do all the grade work that's in here. I mean, there have been a number of vehicles run up and down through there from grading equipment to, in fact, I've driven my Blazer up through there. And so it is definitely semi-ready for the construction of a roadway.
So we wouldn't want to put the roadway in earlier because of construction that would occur, or would it damage it?
You could certainly do that. I would need to walk through that with Public Works and Planning. You could go ahead and get the subgrade in and put the binder on it and not put the final wearing surface on it. That's done quite a bit in association with building construction. That probably would work without any significant issues. Yes, ma'am.
And would the lot conform, would the cell property conform if that was an unimproved public right-of-way? You know, like it
Yes.
hadn't been accepted?
It does, because it is now. Your driveway does not have to be improved.
Well,
to
no,
make
I
it-
know, but I mean, what's making it conform is that he's got his 50 feet of frontage down on the Bristol Highway, which he's about to give us. And would we need to label it a right-of-way?
It would have to be built to public street standards and accepted by the Planning Commission as a public street.
Before it ever crossed that line to
Yes.
become a public street, okay.
Yes.
My feeling, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm really been recognized, I'm just monopolizing the microphone.
Have at it.
There's a significant opportunity associated with winged deer and this property. There are a couple variables that still give me pause that I just want us to be clear on before we jump headlong into it. I recognize that some won't be with us for our next meeting, and there are some details that I think personally it'd be helpful for me to better understand. And having just gotten this paperwork after business hours yesterday, I would make a motion to table this until the September 6th meeting so that we can be clear what we're doing to Mr. Sell if we accept the blue property and don't improve a public street for a decade. What if he or someone else who subsequently owns that property wants to sell it before there's a public street there? Would be the kind of question I have. So my motion is to put this on the table till, I guess, whatever, our September 6th meeting.
Is that substantial enough of a concern to where we really do need to table it?
Well, that was all- let me-
In your estimation?
That's only one part. The other part of it is the paperwork that supports this entire effort came to us in an email at 5:20 last night that I didn't see till this morning and I haven't read. So I mean, and that's not because I'm careless or lack the initiative. I just haven't had the time to read it since I saw it this morning at 9:30.
Do we need to add the matter to the agenda before we make a motion?
Well, I mean, there's no sense to add that matter if we're not going to vote on the main question, or could we? Jim's not here.
Well, you could certainly act on one and not the other. You could not add this particular item to the agenda if you're going to defer the acquisition of the Wilson property. I think you've got a couple of options as to how you want to proceed with that.
I guess I'm okay with tabling this particular issue. I would like to make a motion, though, this evening to approve the purchase of the Wilson property contingent upon this getting worked out. So I realize that motion's out of order right now, but that's kind of the direction I'd like to see us moving in this evening.
Let me just ask Commissioner Wise, would there be any reason, I recognize Commissioner Fowler won't be here on the 16th, but I mean, we often vote on things with not everyone here, so that we just move it to, and the 16th next week.
Yeah, I guess
Which would give us-
my sense of all
Would
the
you-
variables was Commissioner Fowler's absence was one of the factors driving the urgency to take it up tonight. And out of deference to the full commission, my sense would be, we know we'll all be here on September 6th. This property has been on the market for several years. You know, meaning no slight to the sellers of this property. I just think it's better to do it right than do it quick.
I would hardly call it quick.
Well, it is, you're right in a broader
Yeah,
sense,
in a
but
broader-
when the
Yeah.
documents we're voting on have been in our possession for 25 hours and 40 minutes, and we're about to spend $1.4 million, I personally would rather spend a little more time with it.
Well, if you're going to do it next week when I'm not here, I want to talk tonight. So,
I would rather not do it when we know you're not gonna be here.
Okay.
That's why my motion is to table it till the 6th.
Well, I think in general, in the past, we've always listened to commissioners who have great concern about voting on a matter and wish to have it deferred and allow it to be deferred. So I'll support you in that. I think it would be better, I'd like to see it settled this month, but it would be better for you to have the opportunity to discuss it on the evening that the vote is taken.
Okay.
So I'll support moving it to September 6th. Yep.
Well, I think that was a motion and a second, so. Do you have an official second, Ms. Jennings?
I made it earlier on.
Okay. Very good. Let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
That brings you to the end of tonight's agenda.
Very good. Anybody got anything they'd like to share with?
Well, I would appreciate prayers for tomorrow, for me, and for Dr. Aiken, who's doing my
Well-
surgery for a knee replacement, so
We're,
We'll keep you in our
I
prayers.
appreciate that.
Will you be getting the bionic knee?
I think so.
Okay.
I might jump up here next time I
Okay.
show up for a meeting.
We had a call from a citizen that, on an issue that I absolutely agree with. We're becoming a really dog-friendly, pet-friendly community, and I think that's a great thing. But I do want to request of our citizens to kind of help out as we have more and more dogs in the parks, and particularly on the Tweetsie Trail. We need to be more responsible. And so I know Parks and Recreation provides the doggy bags, and I just want to request all of our citizens, keep your animals on a leash when you're out. Keep them contained so they're not out wrapping around other people's legs and feet and tripping them. And please, please clean up after your pets. We want to remain pet-friendly, so we need everybody's help to do that. And I want to thank the citizen for calling in and making that suggestion.
Just be a good neighbor, right? Anybody else? Well, very good. Commissioner Fowler, you'll be in our prayers tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you back here on the 6th. That's right, September 6th.
Still have time to go get